Welcome back to another episode of Decoding Project 2025, a project of the Taking Down Trump podcast, and I'm your host, Tristan Snell. We left off talking about Project 2025 and Donald Trump's plans for the Department of Education. Now, first off, the main headline is they actually want to get rid of the Department of Education. But more specifically, let's get into some of the finer points where we left off last week. They really want to gut what's called accreditation. You have certain nonpartisan, trusted third parties whose job it is to give a professional yes or no on whether or not a school is legitimate. We have these things so that you actually don't just have anybody starting up a fly-by-night school like Trump University, where they just get to do whatever they want and call it a school or call it a university and no one's really watching over them. Another key safeguard here is states being able to license schools, but having these accrediting bodies, say for law schools, it's the American Bar Association. We need to have these so that you can't just have people starting up a school, collecting a whole bunch of money through people's tuition, and then folding, and then not offering people a real education, right? It's a matter of consumer protection, right? And then it's a matter of, it goes beyond that too, right? Because if you're going to have a law school and it's churning out people that then get to call themselves lawyers, then the rest of the public may also be harmed by those people running around practicing law when they went to a fake school, right? Accreditation is incredibly important. And Donald Trump and Project 2025 want to get rid of it. They just want it to go away. This would give, so it's a very, again, I call it the boredom fascism sandwich. This is a bit of a boring topic, admittedly, okay? School accreditation, like snooze. Are you asleep already? I don't even know. But this is a very, very important topic because it gives, this is something you probably have heard of, it would give for-profit schools a complete free hand to commit fraud. It would turn education into one giant Trump University, into one giant Corinthian, okay? And they actually single out law schools in particular. They want to get rid of the American Bar Association's power to provide accreditation to law schools so that you can have a bunch of fly-by-night fake bullshit law schools pop up and fake law schools churning out fake lawyers. I think that the particular reason why they would like to do that is because they are starved for foot soldiers to actually carry out a lot of the changes that they want to make to gut American government and turn the republic into Russia, to basically Kremlinize the American government. They need people with law degrees to do that in a lot of situations. They want to get their people into the counsel's office in all of these federal agencies, and they don't have enough lackeys with law degrees to be able to do it. Maybe because a bunch of them have actually been disbarred for carrying Donald Trump's water back in 2020, but that's another story. You know, you don't have as many Rudy Giuliani's and Sidney Powell's running around because they keep getting disbarred. So you got to prop up some fake law schools, churn out some fake lawyers to actually go in there and do their bidding. But they go beyond that. It's not just about accreditation. They also attack teachers' unions and talk about rescinding their federal charters. They want to legalize discrimination against LGBTQ students. They want to allow schools to take actions targeting those students. That's just a horrible, horrible thing. It unwinds so many things where there have been progress in America and where there's still work to be done. But throughout this document, one of the through lines that I've seen as a theme throughout the whole thing is that they want to completely turn back the clock on the LGBTQ community and to legalize discrimination in a range of areas of American life, in the workplace, in commercial and merchant settings. They want merchants to be able to discriminate against LGBTQ customers. And they want to be able to take LGBTQ kids and single them out and have them receive special discriminatory treatment. How awful is that, right? How horrible are these people? What monsters came up with this? And the answer is Donald Trump and his minions. That's who came up with these things. So let's just remember that, okay? They're attacking kids in this document and in their policies. It's one thing to say, oh, we're going to be going after these adults. A lot of times they can take it, they can fight back, they can sue, There's things they can do. It's bad enough in those situations, but to go after kids, are you serious? There's more here. They want to eliminate support for education for low-income kids. They want to eliminate college prep for underprivileged kids. So they want to take kids who need a bit of help getting onto the first rung of the ladder, and they want to slap away their hand and saw off that rung of the ladder and make it impossible for them to be able to get anywhere. And then to top it all off, they want to let schools apply to be able to discriminate against women and in favor of rapists, basically to get religious exemptions from Title IX, and to do that secretly, whereas right now, schools that apply for those exemptions are shown on a DOE website. They want to be able to take down that website and let these schools be able to get those exemptions in secret. In my opinion, there should not be any exemptions from these things. If you have a generally applicable legal and constitutional standard against discrimination, being able to cite anything religious as a way to get around that is absolute bullshit and should not be tolerated. It is garbage. It's basically trying to take racism and cloak it in something that sounds more palatable. They're sugarcoating racism when they do that. They're giving a little bit of a coat of paint on it and then expecting us to fall for it. We shouldn't be falling for it anymore. But then to be able to allow that sugarcoating and then allow it to happen in secret so that these particular schools don't get shamed, I mean, that's just wonderful. It just shows you exactly what their mission is here. At the end of the day, it is sexist, it is racist, and it's also pro-rapist. They care more about the rights of accused rapists than they do about the women that they assaulted. Okay? That just tells you everything that you need to know. I don't know how anybody could read things like this about Donald Trump and Project 2025 and care about any women in their lives, daughters, nieces, grandkids, sisters, mothers, aunts, friends, whomever, and come out of it and not see exactly what's going on here. This is one of the most anti-woman documents I've ever read in American politics of any time in the past 150 years. Let's move on now to the Department of Energy, which is another area where basically the Project 2025 people would love to just get rid of it entirely. It's very clear. They stopped just short of that for the most part in this document, but there's a lot here that if you care about the climate, really this section is really all about the climate. If you care about doing something to fight the climate crisis, then you need to listen up about this section. Donald Trump wants to repeal the infrastructure bill and the Inflation Reduction Act, which together had the largest set of green and renewable energy initiatives ever in American history. Those bills together did more to help fight the climate crisis than anything else the United States of America has ever done. And Donald Trump wants to get rid of both of them. Also, by the way, if you've had a road repaired in your area, if you've had a bridge replaced in your area, if you've seen any other infrastructure projects go on in your district, in your state, you probably have the infrastructure bill to thank, even if it wasn't labeled as such. And those projects could halt. Let's be clear about this. They would just stop. Oh, they got half the bridge finished? It will stop because Donald Trump and Project 2025 came in and said, nope, we're just getting rid of it. If the Republicans come back in, those projects will just halt. And those jobs that were created will go away. A lot of these construction workers who have been put to work on all of these jobs all over the country are going to lose their jobs. Okay? A lot of the other work that's being done to build a wind farm, to build a solar array, to update and modernize grid systems, whether these are public projects or private projects, work on these things is going to cease. It is going to be, you're probably going to see layoffs in the auto industry because the subsidies for electric vehicles would go away. So the folks that are working on EV manufacturing could potentially lose their jobs as a result of Donald Trump and Project 2025. They want to eliminate clean energy research and support. I'm around page 369 now. They want to kill efficiency standards for appliances. So By the way, this is bad for everybody, okay? Even the manufacturers, if a manufacturer is told to hit a standard, they've actually proven to be amazingly ingenious at being able to hit that standard. It's like giving somebody a deadline, right? It focuses their attention. It's a forcing mechanism. It makes them hit a target that they might not otherwise hit. Having efficiency standards for cars, for fridges, anything has been a really wonderful thing for the industry too, because it's caused them to innovate faster. People have not lost their jobs over it. It's actually caused more jobs to be created because you need to have more innovation in these industries. They need to come up with more innovations to meet that standard. It's been better for all of us because it means our electric bills are lower. So if you want to make sure that the next fridge or the next dishwasher or the next washing machine that you buy is suddenly an energy hog and you see your electric bill spike, then vote Republican, because that's what Donald Trump and Project 2025 want to do. They want to wind back the clock, take things that were progress, that were steps forward for a better America for everybody, for all of us, for you, for your bills every month, and they want to rip it apart because some special interest wanted it that way. Now, let me just unpack something else in Republican speak that you see here throughout Donald Trump's Project 2025. It's that they'll often talk about having like, oh, we want an all of the above standard for energy. We want to have American dominance in energy. What they really mean is stifling these booming renewables, okay, particularly solar, which I don't think people realize how competitive solar energy is getting in terms of how it compares to, say, natural gas, okay? The amount of gains that have been made in how much more efficient the cost of a gigawatt has gone down so much more in terms of how much it costs to generate that through solar energy. Okay. There was a really terrific whole cover story that was done in The Economist magazine a couple months ago about this that I highly recommend everybody read. It's a story that is global in its implications. It impacts the US, it impacts Europe, it impacts China, it impacts everybody. And yet it's not really being told by mainstream media in America. It is one of the most important economic and political stories of our time, and yet it's not really being told. But that's a lot of the backdrop to what Donald Trump and Project 2025 want to do. They want to stifle these other emerging types of energy before they get even more competitive, before they actually overtake. Solar is on path to become far, far, far cheaper than oil and gas and coal. Let me say that again. Solar is on track now to become cheaper than. We're not just going to get to parity. We're going to get to a point where solar is so cheap that we effectively have energy for everybody at a fraction of the cost of what we currently pay. Okay, because the solar will be so cheap that your electric bill will drop. So charging your EV will actually be a lot cheaper. Your cost of driving will go down. You won't need gas anymore, right? That's the world that we're headed toward. And it's a world that they want to stop from happening, okay? So to be clear, what they want to do is they want zero competition for oil and gas and coal. They want to build a castle wall with a moat around it, around those industries, and say no one ever gets to compete with them. Never mind how crazily competitive some of these other things are, especially solar. All right. If you look at different types of renewables, solar has suddenly been the standout player. It went from something that was always said the future, oh, solar's 5 years away, oh, solar's 10 years away, it's going to be a big deal. It finally did happen. Solar's now on a hockey stick type trajectory that is akin to really the only thing that we can look at, and it's even stronger than this really. One of the only things you can compare it to is the increased power of semiconductors and what we call Moore's Law. With the plunge in the cost of computing power is one of the only things you can point to that's akin to what's happening to the plunge in the cost of solar energy. Okay, we are in the midst of a revolution. It may take another 10, 20 years to completely take effect, but we're in maybe year 5, year 10 of what's truly, truly a global solar revolution that Donald Trump and Project 2025 want to stop at all costs because it could mean that basically the oil and gas and coal industries get decimated, right? They might end up being a lot less powerful. There might be just way less demand for those older types of fuel anymore if we fast forward another 10 years, right? They want a world in which no one has an electric vehicle. They want a world in which everybody is still heating their homes with oil in the wintertime in the Northeast. All right. They don't want to have better solar power, better batteries, better grid systems. They don't want any of that. They want everything exactly the way it is with continuous record profits. That's what they want. It is an artificial entrenchment of a vested economic interest. That is what is going on with the energy sector. And that's what you see here in Project 2025 and what the policies would be in a second Trump administration and what they were in a first Trump administration. Relatedly, then moving on to their section regarding the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA. Again, they want to circumvent the Senate, ignore the Senate, be able to put political leadership into place without having the Senate approval in violation of the Constitution. And then we get down to some other nitty-gritty things that I think are, to me, they were very visceral. I think they'll really hit home. The EPA, and I actually didn't know this, they had adopted a goal of restoring to our air, to restoring what's referred to as natural visibility across the whole country by 2064. So in other words, what did it look like? What did the sky look like? What did visibility look like prior to the Industrial Revolution? We are within a generation or so away from being able to get back to natural visibility. Maybe it's 2 generations, okay? This has been a long-standing goal ever since the first Clean Air Act was passed back in the 1970s and the EPA was created to be able to get American skies back to their natural beauty, right? This is about giving America a blue sky again, and not just parts of America, all of America, okay? This is a goal that we've adopted as a country to get back to that by 2064. Donald Trump and Project 2025 want to get rid of it completely. They don't want to push it back. They don't want to have a study about it to determine its feasibility. They just want to get rid of it entirely because and then there's a bunch of gobbledygook language there about about their reasons why. But the real thing is that it's because the fossil fuel industry doesn't want it. And so effectively, Project 2025 is pro-smog. So if you like coughing, if you like your children coughing, if you like not being able to see the blue sky on a cloudless day, vote Republican. If you are old enough to remember what American skies looked like in a city like Los Angeles or Houston or New York a generation ago, vote Republican because that's what they want to come back to, okay? They also want to gut clean air and water standards overall and allow polluters to, get this, self-review. They want polluters to self-police. Tell me how well that's worked in something like, say, banks, okay? That's kind of what we had before the financial crash. And then we put these Dodd-Frank things in, which they also want to get rid of, right? We have these regs on the books so that folks can't just do whatever they want and make as many mortgages as they want and package them up and resell them and blah, 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 blah until the whole thing crashes and burns. How do you think that's going to go if we just say, you know what? Polluters can do their own review and determine whether or not they're polluting. As we heard the other day from Senator Whitehouse when he was on the show, he said that this is effectively what we have now with the Supreme Court. They get to police themselves. And it's akin to telling a couple of pro baseball teams, hey, here's the rules of baseball. We're going to tack them up on the board, on the bulletin board here. We're not going to have any umpires anymore. You decide whether or not that was a ball or a strike. You decide whether or not you were out or safe. Guess how that's going to go? Just think about that for half a second. So this just defies common sense, but they just want to let polluters completely run the show. They want to completely just gut the EPA and say, you know, polluters, do whatever the hell you want. And if you want to make the sky look like it does in Beijing, go ahead. We don't care because it's better for you for your pocketbook. Thereby it's better for us for campaign donations. This is effectively what Donald Trump is telling America. He's telling the rest of us to screw off as long as he can keep on getting his campaign funded and whatever other things he's doing to line his pockets. And to top it all off, they want to allow polluters and allied organizations to sue the EPA regarding any science or any other provisions that they don't like. So if the EPA is coming out and saying we have all of the data to support the idea that we're continuing to sleepwalk into a climate catastrophe, we continue to see all of this polar melt, you can go and look at it. You can go fly your own goddamn helicopter over there and see it for yourself. These things are measurable. That you're going to let the oil companies, the coal companies, you're going to let these folks, or some bullshit industry organization that they prop up for this exact purpose, you're going to let those people go ahead and sue the EPA and EPA scientists and other scientists in the space for just doing their jobs and coming up with scientific data based on clear measurements that any of us could reproduce. You're going to let them be dragged into court for that and have their reputations be dragged in and tie them up in litigation and give them all these sleepless nights, just for doing their jobs. So just to top it all off, it's the vengeance, the cruelty, it's all baked in to how they operate all of this. They're not satisfied just with giving us air that would make us cough and water that would give us cancer. They would allow for the polluters not just to win, but then to get vengeance by suing anybody who had done anything to them ever. Right? That's the world that Donald Trump and Project 2025 envision. But guess what? It gets worse, because we're going to be talking about health and human services next time. And this is where we're going to get some of the most diabolical, some of the most fascist proposals that we have anywhere throughout this document. So unfortunately, you're not going to want to miss our next episode of Decoding Project 2025. And as always, you can see me on Twitter, follow me there, or on Substack. Make sure to subscribe for free, and we'll see you next time.